and you like turn the lights on. Like, yeah, y'all about to see me run. Like, yeah, y'all about to see a real athlete on the, you know what I'm saying? Where it's
Right.
like you're not afraid. You don't necessarily say it out loud, but you're not afraid of the lights coming on. You're like,
Yeah.
get the brightest lights you got, get the best camera crew. Like we about to have a show today, you know? And it's
Right.
just it's good for like tackling fear, right? Because you're not scared
Mm,
of the moment, but it's
right.
bad in that you're so overconfident that
Yeah.
you'll do stuff that you know is not in your best interest, right? Like, but you get to that level where it's just that ego, man, it will do it to you. But you have, like you said, you gotta be cautious, not only of the failure, but of the success.
Dude, but then that lesson hits you. And so it's not even that it's like a and it only hits you, it hits you however you're capable of. So I've had lessons like that hit me, and I can call those a humbling experience, right? What's up? What's up? Thank you for joining us. My name is Zavi, and this is my boy Law. What's up, Law?
How you doing, Zav?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. And this is Beyond the Pieces, where we're going to talk about personal growth and self development. And we're going to break it all down piece by piece. Do me a favor, if you really enjoy the video, please make sure to click the like button below and leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Let's get into the video.
How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm doing pretty good. I'm just glad that we finally got this started, man. This has been a lot of work in the making, so I'm glad to get this thing working, and we figured something out. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, brother.
So,
Working. Love it though. Work feel
yeah.
more like play now. It's a lot more free.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess just routine. Kind of like doing the same thing over and over. It got to get easier at some point, right?
Yeah, you would think so. You would think so. I know that's not how I felt when I graduated college, but now that I've been in the workforce for a minute, it's starting to feel, it definitely feels easier for sure.
Speaking of college, for the people who don't know, let's go ahead and give the audience a little background on who is this Zavi character, right? So obviously, you just said you went to college. Anything else you'd like to elaborate on from college?
Uh, yeah, no, I went to two different colleges. I went to college to run track and field. That was kind of my main goal. I wanted to be an Olympic athlete at some point. Yeah, I went to a Division II college first at Western State University. Ran for them for a couple years. Had a couple successes while I was there, and then it was a small town. Kind of felt stuck there, so I felt that I needed something new, something to kind of freshen up my life a little bit, and so I decided to transfer. Reached out to Tech, Louisiana Tech, and ran half a year there until COVID hit, and then been at Tech ever since. Graduated from Tech.
Graduated from Louisiana Tech. So why'd you? What was the big thing about going from D2 to D1? Was it just like a legacy thing, or was it like an ego thing, or was it just lifelong dream? Like what made you want to go from D2 to D1? Because obviously the speed is the speed, right? Or was it the level of competition for you? Like what made you want to make the switch?
Yeah, I would like to say, I mean, the competition level, but speed, and like kind of what you said, I could use that kind of against what you said as well. Speed is speed. You're gonna have fast people, Division II, Division III. At the end of the day, it's the time that really matters. You'll have someone Division II that could compete in the top 10 at the Division I level. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
it was ego. I transferred. Well, it was ego, but I think that for me, it just made the most sense at the time. I mean, I really transferred from Tech. I knew I just wanted to get out of Western, out of Gunnison, Colorado, just because of the environment that I was in. I wasn't doing what I should have been doing while competing. I felt it wasn't the typical college town that a kid would look like. Oh, I want to go to college, And then they look at this college, unless you ski or snowboard, that wasn't the type of town that you want to go to. Kids are usually looking
Gotcha.
for, oh man, like where can we go on a Saturday night? You know what I mean? Like what functions are we going to? What spots can we go? And there was not a
Right.
lot of that at Western at all. So I went there to run, realized that I was kind of, I mean, point blank, I was kind of lonely up there, even though I had a lot of friends. Um, like I had a group of friends. I can't say I had a lot of friends. I've never had more than like 5 friends. But it was just I had to get out of there, man. Like people were dropping out left and right. I felt like I was next. I was making bad decisions. So I felt like if anything, I was gonna drown while I was there, in a sense, like in life. So I was like, yeah, let me get out of there. And it made sense because I was like, okay, if I'm a transfer from a Division 2 college, I don't want to transfer Division 2 and then go to another Division 2. And that was just the
Gotcha.
athlete in me. It just, to me at the time, it just really didn't make any sense. So I was like, so all the colleges that I reached out to were Division 1 level teams, and Tech was one of the teams that answered my call, and everything took off from there.
You said something interesting though. You said that you felt lonely, right? And I
Mm,
I, I just want to take a moment to look into that because I think for a lot of people when they look at athletes, you don't think of an athlete being lonely, right? Especially
mm,
if they're good at their sport. And you going from D2 to D1, you obviously had to be good at what you was doing, right?
mm.
So as an athlete, you had times where you felt lonely, right? So is there anything that you can remember that you may have done or a situation you may have been in um where you felt lonely, right? Like was there ever a situation where you're at a party or you're at practice or something, even though you're around a bunch of people, you still
Yeah.
feel lonely inside or you feel alone?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 100%. And for me, what I felt like I've dealt with that throughout a lot of my childhood. I was not allowed to go out at parties. I wasn't allowed to go. I wasn't allowed to spend the night a lot. I had friends, but most often my parents did a good job of just keeping me busy. So I was always doing something. So when I was released, I like to say I was released to college. There was a lot that I was like, wow, there's so much that I could do. There's so much options. There's so many, and the biggest thing was freedom. I was like, shoot, man, I could do whatever I want. And you would think that would be liberating. You know what I mean? That would be very, and at first it is. At first it is. And,
Hmm.
this is just my experience. I can't speak for everyone, but it was. I was like, man, I could do whatever. So I did. I did a lot. And I did a lot of things that I shouldn't do. I would party before track meets. Dude, it was tough. But then, um, well, I say it was tough. It was tough because I was putting myself in a deeper hole. I started slacking in different areas, started slacking in school. I would slack on the track. I would slack in relationships, because I was prioritizing things that were only bringing me down. And yeah, man, like it got to a point where I became numb to partying because I couldn't really enjoy myself at the party. I was failing in school. You know what I mean? Like I was, and the whole time the whole time I'm there, I'm thinking about, bruh, if I fail one more exam, I can't run track. Wait a second, track is what's paying the bills right now. So how am I gonna, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, so either I flunk out of school or I can't afford to pay for school. Either way, I'm gonna be out of school if I keep going along this path. But instead of tackling it, I would, like you said, I mean, I would go out party, I would drink, but my thing, I would compensate it. I would compensate it with like just fun. You know what I mean? I would just stay numb to things, and it got bad, man. It got real bad to where like I really was like on edge of just failing. And I mean, one thing I did prioritize, I still did prioritize being a good athlete, but that was thriving purely on just my ego of not I didn't like losing to people. So no matter if, like, it was weird. I would eat, but I was drinking a lot. I was doing other things a lot. Um, but then, like, I would drink, let's say I would go to a party and I would drink until like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And then that morning I had practice at like 7 a.m. So I wouldn't prepare like that whole night. I was drinking, but I would go to practice, and that practice, I was killing it. I would feel it. A lot of times, the reason I was throwing up was not because the workout was hard. You know what I mean? So, uh,
Right.
yeah, it was tough, but but that was only because when I'm on the track, I always felt like a different person. I always felt this was. I always felt that honestly, this was like not like work zombie, but and I don't like talking about. It's not like talking about myself in the third person, but I always felt like the better version of myself when I was on the track. But when I was off the track, I felt like that's real zombie. You know what I mean? That's the Zavi that was
Gotcha.
feeling everything. Like when I was on the track, I forgot about, all the things that I had been, I've gone through with my family. I've, forgot all about my childhood. I forgot about all the things that stressed me out. But then as soon as I stepped foot off the track, as soon as I took my spikes off, it was like, well, back to reality, back to failing Chem 2. You know what I mean? Back to struggling in my
Reality.
relationship. You know what I mean? And then instead of dealing with reality, I would make sure that I was above reality. And whatever that means to whoever listened to this, that's exactly what it was. I was just numb to everything. And then the only times I was technically sober, I was running. I was competing. You know what I mean? So I never really, instead of tackling my problems or, handling my problems head on, I would just run. I run away from them in any shape, way, form. So that, like you said, I mean, I'd go to parties, I'd be drinking, I'd be dancing because I love to have fun. But
Fun
any,
became a distraction.
dude, any moment that I felt like, or I remembered something that stressed me out, it was all right. Let's go back. Let's go party. Let's do this. Blah blah blah. Blah. You know what I mean? So that's why it was lonely. It was because I knew that no one had any clue what I was actually dealing with and how bad depression really kind of had a hold of me, but I also didn't want to show them. So I was choosing to be lonely, but then I complained about being lonely to myself. You know what I mean? So it was
Right. Right.
very counterproductive, and also makes you feel like even more of a failure, because it's like, dude, like, you know that you have a problem, you don't want to tell anyone that you have a problem, so you're just gonna stay in your problem. You feel me? And just deal with it. Maybe something. And I was always God fearing throughout everything. But at that time, I was treating God like a genie. Like, all right, well, if I just make this one wish, He'll just sprinkle some stuff over me, and I'm gonna be straight. Let me thug it out until one day, I'm gonna go into this test completely unprepared. But I promise you, if I pray for that I get an A on this test, even though I didn't test one bit for it, or even though I didn't, study one bit for it, God's gonna give me an A. That never happened. You know what I mean? So
Correct.
yeah, that's kind of, it was a long way to answer your question, but that's how it was, and that's how I dealt with it. I did have solutions, but I mean, you only asked for the problems, the times that I felt lonely. So that's what happened.
Right. And that's what's gonna follow up with. So obviously you get to a point where you say a change has to occur or a change has to happen here, right?
Right.
When was that point and what did you do to change it?
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So for me, I would say it was also in school. Um. And I was in a relationship at the time, and it was like, it was long distance relationships. Everyone tells you how those go, but I mean, yeah. So we dealt with all the things that the typical long distance relationship go through. We were having our problems, and then also I had so a lot of family emergencies that were going on at home, and being away from home was hard for me because when I was home, I was in a way a protector. So I kept, I felt like I was kind of a peacemaker when I was home. I would make sure everyone was okay, everyone was safe. But then I would get calls while I was at school that stuff was going on at home. So I really felt helpless. You know what I mean? And school was going wrong because of the choices I was making, though. Saying on the track, I was killing it, but not to the level that was acceptable for me. You feel me? Um, so yeah, I was focused mainly on what was going wrong in life. So I started imploding, if that makes sense. There were things that were okay, but because of all the things that I was allowing to weigh me down that were going wrong, I started self what do they call it?
Self
Um
harm.
yeah, I started self-harming. Like there was things that were fine, but I was just messing it up because I felt like that's what I need. That's what I deserved. You know what I mean?
Self
So
sabotage. That's what you was looking
self
for.
sabotaging. That's what it is. I was self sabotaging myself horribly, man. Like it would have been my own fault that I was. It wasn't the fact that I was incompetent while I was in class. It was just the fact that I didn't want to do the work. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't going to office hours. I wasn't going to go see a tutor. And then with my mental health, same thing. I wasn't doing any of that. So I mean, I feel like your question was more, what was I doing to combat it? Um,
Like
that's
how did you
exactly what.
finally come out of that feeling of loneliness? Right? Because
Yeah.
at that point you see that you something has to change, right?
Right.
Because you've noticed that you're self sabotaging. So what did you do to kind of pull yourself out of that loneliness state?
Yeah.
Um, feeling that way.
Yeah, man. And it was just not letting it stop at just the realization. Um,
Mm.
Everyone can realize that
Mhm.
problem. Are you going to do something about it? Are you willing to go put in the work to fix it? Most of the time, the answer is no. Most of the time, you're just gonna be like, man, or the most of the time is later. I'll get to it when I get to it, or like it'll, or not even that. It's like you said earlier, like I said earlier, it'll figure itself out. It won't. It won't. You'll forget about it consciously, but it's always going to be back there. And all you're doing is just having a problem, dealing with it head on, and just be like, oh, I'll handle it later. Let me put it back here. There's another problem. Let me put it back here. And you just digging yourself a hole. You're practically killing yourself. You're burying your own grave, point blank. So everything that you ever wanted, everything that you ever imagined, everything that you have, you are ruining it, and you're practically killing yourself. And that's what I felt like I was doing. So I didn't let it stop at my realization. I had one last realization, and I yeah, I lost something that meant the most to me at that time, and I immediately just I started praying, um, and I got down and I didn't treat it like I wasn't just asking for something anymore. I was finally truly apologizing for what I was going through, and that's in the church and what in the Bible it's called repenting. And I truly felt sorry for what I was doing, things that I was doing that I'd never felt was wrong at the time. I was praying because I knew I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't have been doing that. I'm sorry that I did this. I'm sorry that I did that. And I just gave it all to him. And once I did that, it was okay. Repent. That's the first step. What can I do down here to improve? What can I do down here that will actually help me get to where I want to be? But I had to break it down. I'm failing in math. Okay, do and we talked about this earlier too. It's like, okay, you set goals for yourself, but also set why. Why do you want to accomplish this goal? For me was, okay, I'm failing math. My goal is to pass. Let me get a passing grade in math. And my why for me was because I wanted to continue to run track. That's what, and why did I want to continue run track? Because like I told you earlier, track track is where I forget about all my problems. If I lose track, then I'm really just I feel like I'm leaving myself exposed to everything I don't want to deal with. You know what I mean? So it's like
Hmm.
either for me, it was, I'm gonna be honest, I made it life or death. That's really what it was. For me, it was if I do not improve in math, I'm gonna die. You know what I mean? And not in the sense, not in I mean, it did get to a point where I definitely, I've been suicidal before, but I had to make it life or death, as in, if I do not pass this class, I will not be able to run track. If I do not have my outlet, I'm out, point blank. Do you feel me? So,
Hmm.
yeah, it was realizing the gravity. I had to give it all to God. I had to give it all. If I did not do that, man, I wouldn't have had the strength to keep showing up every day to the teacher's office hours, showing up, sending emails on, different questions I had with my homework, showing up to tutoring. You know what I mean? I would not have had the strength to do that because without God, I didn't have the strength to do it. I didn't want to show up. I didn't want to study. I was dealing with having to balance being a student athlete already. Why do I want to do anything extra? You feel me? Why would I give extra in the classroom when I could give extra on the track and be the better athlete? Okay, well, how can I be a good athlete if I'm not allowed to run? You can't. You know what I mean? So
Correct.
it's so repenting, for me, making it life or death, but also just it was making it logical, man. It just making it diagonal. Everything what this connects to this. If I don't do this, this will affect this, and this will affect this, right? So sometimes it just takes you just you have to balance it. You know what I mean? What's gonna affect what? It's cause and effect, and so that's what I had to break it down to. And for me, that's just what saved me, man. So yeah, I said I talk a lot, so I'm sorry I give you a deep, deep and long answer, but that's just that was my experience. So
Perfect, bro. Somebody need to hear it. Somebody need
yeah,
to hear it for sure. Cause they going through that same situation. It may not be the same sport. It might not even be a sport at all. It may just be life itself, right? Cause I think
right,
that as an athlete, we forget that athletes are human too, right?
yeah,
They may be part of a personnel on the team, but you can't have personnel without a person, right? So
yeah,
who
man,
is the person? And most of the time we don't uncover who the person is, right? We just love the athlete for their athletics,
yeah,
forgetting that they too, when they take off their equipment, right? Whether you're a football player, when you take your pads off, a basketball player with your shoes or track
yeah,
cleat, like it doesn't matter. When all that stuff come off, it's back to reality. You're back to a person. You're back
yeah,
to
man,
whatever problems you had before the event, you know? And I think that that gets lost, right? Even looking at pro athletes, right? You watch a pro basketball player score 30, the interview is all about the game he played. It's not about is his mom okay? Is his aunt okay? Is his grandmother okay? You know, how's his children? None of that. It's always the sport, the sport, the sport. So we don't know the athlete. We only know the athletic part of that person, right?
But what about you, bro? I know you were also an athlete. Tell us a little about yourself, so people can get to know you too, man.
Well, I met you at Louisiana Tech. Uh, Not through athletics though. Crazy enough, right? So I did
Yeah,
powerlifting. Uh, but I didn't meet you through athletics. I met you because I was cutting your hair, which is
yeah,
like,
my barber, man.
man, talk about fate, right? But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, did powerlifting in Louisiana Tech for 2 years. Um, it was bittersweet because I always had the strength to finish top 10 in the nation in my weight class.
Yeah,
My second year, I can't quite remember, but I know I was supposed to finish top five. Uh, but some stuff happened, and that didn't happen. And it was like I said, it was bittersweet because in high school I did powerlifting. I was chasing state champion 4 years, right? And every year I was top three, but I never got the number one, right? And so I'm like, I get to college, I'm like, that's not even again. I got the cocky ego head my senior year, so can't nobody tell me nothing. Then I
yeah,
come to Louisiana Tech, who's like a powerhouse when it comes to powerlifting, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm about to get on the best program. You know, I'm about to kill the scene, and nobody's seen it coming, right? And I get there and I go to my first meet and I see that the numbers I thought were big numbers are no longer big numbers, right? Different level of competition. Um, so it made me step my game up. It was fun. It was definitely fun. I think too though I never looked at myself as an athlete per se. Like I never looked at powerlifting as a as a recognized sport. I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
Uh, but I will say going from high school to college, I'm looking at it like I didn't get a state championship, but that doesn't mean nothing if I get a national championship, right? Because what's a state to a nation? You know what I'm saying? So chased it, athlete mindset. You know, just didn't pan out well. After 2 years, I went ahead and I said I wasn't going to let powerlifting retire me. I was gonna retire from powerlifting because you do see some of those guys get hurt or some guys on PEDs that just later on beat their body down and you can I will say you can get to a point where you are
You
so
said
competitive,
PEDs.
huh?
You said PEDs.
Correct. So like
Okay.
for those who don't know, those are performance enhancing drugs. Uh but you can get to a point where you see the guy across from you and you're like you like as an athlete, you know when an athlete isn't natural anymore, right? And so you're looking at this person and you know that the only reason they're even close is because they're using PEDs. And so you start kind of quit. You're like, well, if I'm here naturally and I'm, 60, 70 pounds away from you, I might could catch you on 60, 70 pounds if I start. But then it's like, but what is this going to cost you in the long run, right? What about the integrity
Exactly.
of the sport? And
Yep.
so for me, it was like, just go ahead, hang it up, go out on my terms, always. Every, the way I look at it, there's no way you can talk about me in my weight class and not say I was top 10, you know? And I know that sounds like something you hear with basketball, like top 10 all time, but it's like, no, like go look at the records, go look at the performances. Like I'm top 10. I was top 10 in my heyday, in my prime. So
Yeah.
that's the way I looked at it. Doesn't mean every second of every day was a bright moment, right? You still have times where you go through the loneliness, you go through depression, you go through, but you go through the highs too. You go through the success, the wins, the team camaraderie, right? You get all of the experiences, meet new people. Um, but there's still that loneliness and depression you have to deal with, personally at the end of the day. But it was
At
fun. It
what
was a great
period?
time.
At what point? At what points did you experience that? What type of loneliness was it?
So for me, it was so I'm from a small town from Natchitoches, Louisiana. Uh,
Mm.
very small population. Um, and so for me, the whole reason I went to Tech was to leave home. Like I just didn't want to go to college at home. I didn't want high school part two. So doing that, what they don't tell you is the freedom. Like you said, it feels exhilarating at first, right? Because you don't have somebody to tell you when you need to be home. You don't have somebody to tell you how late you could stay out or when you should be here, when you should do that, when you should do this. Right? It's all on you. But the loneliness coming in for me was that I didn't really have anybody I could talk to about my situation. Right? So in my family, between my dad's children, I was the first one to go to college and graduate, right? And I knew when I went, if I step foot, I'm graduating. Like that was my mind. If I step foot, I'm graduating. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do 4 years and I'm gone, right?
Right.
And so I'm the third sibling of four, right? Um, the other two didn't do that, right? So it's not like I can call them and be like, "Yo, when you got to college, was it like that?" So it's like, no, not really there. And I was a
Okay.
not only was I a powerlifter, but I was a poet, right? So now people looking at me side eye because it's like you lift heavy and you write sensitive poetry, right? So it's like I can't really even talk to you about that. So poetry was my outlet for a long time. Just because you don't have anybody to talk to about your situation. Like you
Right.
people empathize and sympathize for for your situation, but they don't actually understand it. You know, they're
Yeah.
not in your shoes. They're not in the day to day. They get the once a week or once a month vent, right? Where all this stuff then built up all month, and now you let it out one time just so you can handle it for another month or 2 months, right? And so that's
Right.
what they're getting, thinking that they're understanding you, but they're not. And so it led to a lot of alcohol was pretty much free, bro. Like as a powerlifter, you'd be surprised how many different types of people come in the gym. And as a
Right.
powerlifter, you are, whether you like it or not, you are a gym rat, right? You know where every 45, every 25, every machine, what it do. You know what time people come because you're always there, right?
Right.
So it gets to a point you start meeting people or whatever, bro, people just kind of throw stuff at you because you're in the gym, you're strong, you're constantly in the gym, right? And
Right.
now they're looking at it as, right, I got my powerlifting jacket on, they're looking at it as, oh, he's an athlete too, right? And so it's almost like free alcohol being thrown at you just anytime. Just say the word, it's there. So I use alcohol a lot. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just because it distracts from the feeling inside where it's like I don't feel like anybody's hearing me. I don't feel like anybody cares to hear me. I don't feel like anybody understands the situation. I just feel like as long as I, because even at the time my coach didn't know I was only sleeping 4 hours before practice, and that wasn't 4 hours together. That was from midnight to 2 a.m. and from noon to 2 p.m. And
Damn.
I'm going to practice, and he's like, "Oh yeah, today you doing like 3.5 times body weight for X amount of reps." And I'm just like, "Cool," And the days I look sluggish, he'd be like, "You good?" I'm like, "Yeah, just the weight a little
What
heavy
were you
today,
doing?
huh?"
What were you doing? Why couldn't you sleep?
So one, because my mind was always racing, right?
Ah,
So that
that's
that
so
feeling of
you were
loneliness is,
thinking.
yeah, I'm up thinking, and then I'm up thinking,
Damn.
knowing that I should be sleeping. So what do? You go
Yeah.
grab the bottle because you drink enough of the bottle, you'll pass out and go to sleep, right? But the part that
Mm,
sucked about that, I can't even stay passed out of sleep, right? I'm only
mm,
sleeping 2 hours. You know what I'm
that's
saying?
crazy.
So it's like
Yeah.
and this is every day, 7 days a week, right? And I
Mm,
got practice 3 of them. I haven't even mentioned classes, right? So we haven't even made it to class yet. And I got these 8 a.m.s. And for those who don't know, I'm a kinesiology major. So not only am I learning about the body, but my teachers are having me do things so that we can feel what it feels like to write a workout for somebody. So that we're not just writing these random workouts and we don't know how. So not only am I writing workouts, but I'm doing the workout in class to see how it feels. And then I'm going to powerlifting practice to go work out some more, right? And I'm only sleeping 4 hours a day. And I was like that for the first 2 years of my college experience. And then when I come home, instead of my parents, which my mom wasn't, but instead of my parents being like, is everything okay, blah, blah, it's like, why is he sleeping so much? Why is it? And so my dad's looking at it, he's like, why is he so lazy? He's just sleeping all the time. So it's like, I can't explain this to you because you already got an opinion about the situation, you know?
all right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's just the constant build up, and you're like, well, who can I talk to? So you stop talking, right? And from my experience, I think that's one of the worst things you can do is stop talking.
I got a question.
I'm listening.
Um, I know. So you being from the South, I could say I'm technically from the Midwest. That's where I went to high school. But I'm a military kid. How was mental health looked at? Because I mean, you said that you didn't have anyone to talk to. I'm pretty sure schools had counselors. You never like,
But
what was
that's
your
the
thoughts on
thing,
counseling?
and maybe it is because I'm from the South. Like
Mm,
being a male in Louisiana, Going to counseling,
Mm.
it's like
Yeah.
are you,
Yeah.
in the words of the late great Kobe Bryant, Charmin? Right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you are. It's just you have a problem, you need help, but it's not
Right.
always viewed that way, right?
Mm.
So now, even though I'm going through all of this in college, I know I'm going through it. Every time I pick up the bottle, I know I'm going through it. Right? And I'm not just it's gotten to the point where now I'm not just drinking to finish the bottle. I'm drinking and then I'm throwing the bottle at the ground to break the bottle just so I'm not the only thing that's broken, right?
Yeah.
I'm not the only one who feels broken, right? And I know this, but I'm going to the mirror every morning and I'm like, "Dang, you soft." Like you dealing with this
Yep.
again, huh? Like we back to
Yeah.
this little soft. You want somebody to care about your feelings and how you feel
Right.
about things, right? And like
Right.
talking to myself like that, right?
Yeah.
So not only do I feel like I can't talk to nobody, but now when I talk to myself, I'm self-destructing, I'm self-harming, right? And it's
Mm.
constantly building every single day. And
Right.
the only people who came close to seeing anything, because again, I'm hiding this from everybody because it's like I don't feel like I can talk to you. So why'd I show you something for you to ask me questions about what I can't talk about? Right? So the only people who even saw any signs at all were like my roommate, John. Shout out John. Uh he would tell me, he was like, man, I'm scared for you because I noticed like you are a deep thinker, but John would notice like some days I wouldn't sleep at all. Like and we got to a point where we just called them 36s and 48s, right? So it's like, how long you been up? Oh, I'm on the 36 right now. And we could be in public. Nobody else know what we're talking about. But I'm like, yeah, I'm on the 36. Probably gonna be a 48 today, right? But then the weekend come, I'm sleeping 24 hours, right? Like no phone, no none of that. Passed out sleep. Cause I finally worked myself to a point where I can go to sleep. And so I think being in the South, looking at a lot of that as this is not help. Like that's just you being soft. It's like no, it's okay to ask for help, right? And
If
look,
anything, it's the opposite.
correct,
Right.
correct. I
Yeah.
was only making it worse, thinking that nah, you just got to be tough enough to get through this, right? And thank God I got through it. But what if I didn't? You know.
Right.
But I do think being from the South, just the thought, like even now, even where I am mentally now, hearing, oh, such and such went to counseling because of their mental health. He did what? What's going on with him?
Right.
Right? And it's not a, oh, well, I'm glad to see he's getting help. Right? And but I am happy to see that more people are going to get help. Even though it may be difficult with the environment you grew up, because some stuff is just, oh, you just soft. I could never never say who you'll never be, because you
Yeah.
don't know. Um,
Just
but
go ahead.
I think being Southern could have easily played, and because even now I go to like some basketball courts, and I won't say where, but I'll go to some basketball courts. I'll be like, golly, like these cats soft, bro. Like that's a foul. That's a foul. I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah.
oh, right. And I'm only, for those who don't know, because we're on camera, I'm only 5'1", right? So imagine the 5'1", the shortest guy out there is like, oh, he's soft, right? So now what does that do to you as a man, right? So now you like, what?
Yeah.
Who you calling? Did it? And I'm the type, if I'm on the court, bro, bro, hey, you got Charmin, light him up real quick. Like Charmin ain't got nothing on you, dog. Like I'm on the court, right?
Right.
So just that mentality, and to be dealing with stuff in real life and knowing I need help, but being like,
Yeah.
bro, you don't ask for help. That's soft.
Yeah.
No, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Like that's actually what that is. Like no, if you need
Absolutely.
help,
It's done.
that's
Yeah.
that's why
It's
it's there.
and I'm gonna go ahead and insert there because that's what I was thinking. I mean, kind of came to this realization is if if you're anything like me, and I know a lot of people aren't the same, but this is what I do believe. What I do believe is soft is if you are only going to counseling just because you want someone to pat you on the back.
Be attention.
Now, it's different. Now, I know a lot of people have never had that though. So I'm trying to be careful. I'm trying to be more considerate of people who have never had somebody to be like, it's all good, man. It's good. You're okay to feel these things, but it should not stop there. You see, I think that to me, productive counseling, it does have that. It has a, it's good. I get it. But if you are only going to counseling just to keep going through the same way you've dealt with life, the exact same way, that to me is soft. To me, it is soft if you just say, I'm choosing to live the same type of lifestyle. I don't want to do anything to fix it, but I just want to talk about it.
Right. It's are you going
To
to
me,
get
that
help or are
is
you going to get attention? That's the difference.
exactly,
Because if you're going for
exactly
attention, it's like, bro,
right,
you just like for people to hear you cry. But if you're
right,
going like, no, this is I'm dealing with this and I don't want to
right.
keep dealing with this. I need help. Totally
Exactly.
different
I
conversation.
think that you can. I think that it's still okay. Yes, go for the attention you've always been craving for. Some of us never had that, right?
Right? If that's your way of healing.
But that should only be a stepping stool. That should not. It shouldn't just end there. And oh, that was it. I'm good. Because it doesn't. It doesn't. If you truly are going, I think productive counseling, it comes with that, but then it comes with tools. Give me tools with life. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to, like for me, it was I had a lot of test anxiety. I did. So it was like, okay, well, how can I deal with test anxiety? That's the question. Give me steps. What can I do to deal with that? It's just, for if I'm breaking it down as an athlete, is it's like this. Okay, uh, I want to run a faster time in the 60-meter hurdles. How do I do that? Okay, I'm not gonna keep on complaining like, dang man, it's been a whole season. I didn't get faster at all. But I just want to cry about it and not do anything. Like, you know what I mean? I just
I'm
want
gonna
people to
stop going
know
to
that,
practice now. Like
yeah,
cry because
yeah.
that helped.
I just want, exactly. Like, no, I want to know. Tell me, what is it? Do I need to change my blocks? Do I need to change the way I'm training? Do I need to, like, what do I need to focus on? Do I need to work on my trail leg? Do I need to work on my lead leg? What is the problem? Okay, thank you for those tools. It's not a fact of, oh, those are guaranteed, the tools that they were given to me are guaranteed to work. But the fact that I'm given tools, that's the part that gives me hope. That's the part that is changing me, is because the fact, like, wait a second, I don't have to live like this. You know what I mean? One of
Hmm.
the biggest things that I had to deal with was I've been in quite a few, I can't say quite a few. I've been in a few car accidents that changed the way I drive, point blank. You know what I mean? Like, I have a problem taking left turns at an intersection. That's just me. I'll wait all day at an intersection until I see all cars are completely stopped before I take a left turn. But when I do, I can tell you, bro, I know that my blood pressure is high. Nobody better say a word to me. I'm focused. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I'm stressed out. And then even after the fact, I'm like angry. I'm kind of like, man, I had to go through that, right? And I remember I was talking to my wife's mom, and I was telling her why I don't trust other people to drive, and she was like, "Oh," she's like, "Wow, that's she did that." She was like, "Yeah, that's really hard. I'm sorry you have to deal with that. I'm sorry you have like PTSD with being in the car." And then she was like, "Yeah, but like, have you ever thought about like trying to deal with that?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And she was like, "No, like, how are you gonna work on that?" And I was like, I kind of just was gonna live like this. I thought it was just something I lived with for the rest of my life. Like, I just thought it was something I do. She was like, no, not. You should think about
But
it.
that's
I
just
was
it. Is
like,
you don't know that it's a problem
dude,
until you meet people who don't have that problem, and you're like, oh, and that's what I'm saying about like being Southern. Like I can go to any court in Louisiana, and I know about how physical they're gonna play basketball, right?
right,
But let's say I go somewhere, and I'm not pointing at this state particularly, but let's say I go like Utah, right?
mm,
They're probably gonna play basketball a little bit differently, right? And so until I see them play basketball in Utah, the only brand of basketball I know is Louisiana,
right,
right? And so it's not until you realize that ain't normal for everybody that you're like, oh, so there is something else out there. And then
yeah,
I think it's up to you at that point whether or not you decide, okay, I would like this change, or nah, I'm gonna stick with what I got. You know what I'm
right,
saying? But it
yeah,
do take the experience of like, so this not normal everywhere, right?
right,
Because in your environment, that's normal, right? Like how
mm,
you said you had been in multiple car accidents. Anybody who's been in multiple car accidents like that, like that's normal. It's like this is how we live our life now. Like This is
Yeah.
because we had this
Exactly.
experience. But
Yeah.
for people who've never had it and they're like, well, what you gonna do? Like, there's something I could do,
Right.
And so it's like,
Exactly. Yeah. It was like, bro, it was like a revelation, and it almost made me feel kind of dumb. I was like, wait. I was like, because then I always built my, I've always wanted to be a man, especially at a younger age too. I always wanted to be older than what I was, and I was like, man, I got it. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out on myself. I'm different. Sometimes I didn't pick up what advice people would tell me, but that was definitely one of the ones that made me think like, wait, this is something that can be worked on. I thought it was just it happened. I thought this is what I have to deal with for the rest of my life. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was
yeah,
just such a crazy feeling, and it was so simple. Like the way that she broke it down like that was kind of like, oh, so it's just that easy, huh? I could just like I could just fix it. Yeah, it actually is. It actually like it's easy to say. It's easy
right.
to say. Now,
The
obviously, the work
process,
to go through about doing
yeah,
it, of course, it's not. But if you, I'm not the type to. I hate complaining about the same thing over and over and over without thinking of even trying to find a solution. You feel me? And so what she made me realize is that she wasn't the only one that told me that I stress people out while they're driving. I'm a huge backseat driver. She wasn't the only one. My wife has told me, my mom has told me, my sisters have told me, so many of my friends have told me, like, dude, relax. And I'm just like, man, I can't. You know what
like
I
I'm
mean?
trying, but I
I
really
can't.
cannot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not in the driver's seat. I can't relax. So yeah, man, and then it just changed the way I really looked at everything. It was like, you know what? There is a solution out there somewhere. But that whole saying of like closed mouths don't get fed, you know what I mean? Or you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You know what I'm saying? Like,
correct.
it's a decision. It's your decision. And that's why, like, and that's really what it comes down to. To get out of loneliness, you need to make the decision to pull yourself out. Because at the end of the day, no one's coming to save you on their own. You know what I'm saying? If you really get that, that to me is point blank. That is the ultimate form of a blessing. That someone recognized you and they reached out to you and they helped pull you out. But it still takes a decision for you to be like, because they can reach out their hand, they'll be like, here, I got you, man. Come with me. I got you. But you still got to be like, yeah, I'm cool. I got like you got to be
I
trusting. Like,
trust you.
thank you,
Yeah,
man. You know what I mean? Get over your ego of I got to figure it out, or get out of your fear of like, well, what are you gonna think about me? What are you gonna think when I tell you everything that I'm going through? You know what I mean? Get out of all that. You need to get rid of your ego, get rid of the fear, overcome the fear. You have to. It takes courage to talk about your problems with someone else. Because if it didn't, everyone would be in my business. I would know everything, every little thing about that you've dealt with in your entire life. You know what I mean? So,
right. I think though that when it comes to overcoming the fear, you gotta
mm,
weigh the options, right? So
right.
like, let's say let's say I have a fear of public speaking, right? Most people do, right?
Mm,
So you have two options. You can never speak publicly, right? Or you can overcome your fear of public speaking, right?
right.
Very basic. However, let's say you choose, all right, I'm just never going to do public speaking. Okay, so you're going to be a 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old person, and you're cool with still being afraid of publicly speaking. So,
Right.
but when you say it like that, it's like, wait, you think like let's say somebody's 14 watching this, right? And they're like, I'm scared of public speaking. Okay, you're scared of it today, right? But let's say you
Yeah.
continue to say, "Oh, I'm scared of it. I'm scared of it." So you're going to be 24, 34, 44, and you're still going to be scared of public speaking? So you've been scared.
Right.
So you're willing to be scared of public speaking longer than you've already been alive,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're
That's
14,
tough.
if
That's a
you're
tough way to break it
14 and you're
down.
still afraid of it at 44, you've been afraid for 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's like,
And
which one
you're
do you
cool with
want?
that choice? That's your choice? Okay.
Right? It's your
Right.
choice to make, but I think if you
Right.
look at the decision to be made like that, then you're like,
Yeah.
that didn't really make sense.
if you
Why
look
would
at
I?
it, if you look at it as a choice, you know
Correct.
what I'm saying? Yeah, that's good, man. That's
Yeah.
tough.
So it's just because I had to do a lot of that. Like going through the whole loneliness thing, I got to a point where it's like these bottles don't work.
Hmm.
Nobody's coming to save you, right? And
Yeah.
I think that that was the best worst mentality I could have had at that moment because it got me to get up and like you gotta do something besides this bottle, bro. Like ain't no genie in this bottle that's gonna grant your
Yeah.
wish. You gotta get up. Like you gotta get up and do something. It might not even
Yeah.
be the right thing to do, but you gotta do something, right? And
Right.
the nobody's coming to save you. It's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You life is punching you in the mouth right now. Are you gonna
Right.
quit during the fight and be like, oh yeah, beat me to a pulp, and when you get done, just leave me here, right?
Yeah.
Or are you gonna be like, nah, you whooping me right now, but eventually I'm gonna figure out how to time that right hand you keep throwing. I'm gonna duck one of them and I'm gonna hit you back. And it
Yeah.
might not hurt you, but I'm gonna hit you back. I'm gonna get mine. And
Right.
so it's just by doing that, you figure out, okay, that's how you throw a right hook. Okay. I threw another right hook. Okay, let's see if I can throw a left one. Right? And before
Yeah.
you know it, you fighting back. And everybody don't win the fight. Maybe it's me being southern, but heck, if you ain't winning the fight, don't stop fighting. At least fight. You know,
Yeah.
if you give me a black eye, bloody nose, busted lip,
Right.
and you come out of the fight without a scratch, I'm mad. I'm not
Yeah.
mad because I lost. I'm mad because
Yeah.
it
I
don't
didn't
even look
touch you.
like you was in a fight.
Right.
Right? But if I got the black eye, the bloody lip, and busted nose, but you got a big fat lip and you limping around, we matching. I'm good with that.
Yeah. I feel a
You
little bit
know,
better about myself. Yeah.
I feel I might not have won the fight, but you knew you
Yeah.
was in the fight, right? And
Right. You knew you were in the fight.
you like every
Yeah.
morning when you wake up and look at your lip, I gotta wake up and open my one eye and look at my face too. You know,
Yeah.
I can't open both of mine. You can open both of yours, but either way, we both understand it was a fight had.
Hmm. And that I think we're going down. This is just the beginning of the podcast where we're talking about loneliness. But I mean, we might talk about it in the next one. But I think what might be spoken about, is where do you get the motivation to fight? You feel me? A lot, and that we talked about it. What's your why? Okay, but my why might not be enough for you. You feel me?
Correct.
My why might not be enough for you to achieve your goals. So what's your why, and how can you find one that motivates you enough to when it gets hard, the times that most people quit, what's your why to keep you through the difficult times? You know what I mean? And that's something to talk. Definitely, I think that we should definitely talk about pretty soon. Here is just because it is different and it varies, and that's the hardest part, man. Is finding that motivation. It's so easy to sit in what we're used to. It's so easy to sit in what makes us feel nice, in the moment. And sit in the
Comfort.
alcohol, sit in the sex. You know what I mean? Sit in the comfort, sitting eating all the time and staying in my bed and skipping school and you know what I'm saying? It's so easy to do that.
It's
So
easy
it's
to
like,
stay
all right,
where it's warm, but
right.
sometimes you gotta go where it's hot. Other times you gotta go where it's cold.
Yes,
Enjoy the
sir.
warmth when you have it, but don't live there, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So, and it's
Yep.
it's so counterintuitive to say, like, why wouldn't I want to live in a warm house? Because you'd be at home all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Guess what? The world's still moving. The world is still doing this while you're right here. You
Yeah,
feel
like,
me?
but it's
So
hot outside today. Yeah, yeah. It'll be
mhm,
warm when you get home, though. It won't be hot anymore. It's cold
yeah.
outside today. Yeah, but it'll
Yeah.
be warm when you finally make it back home. But you gotta go out there first. You gotta go
Right.
attack first.
And it's gonna be like, and then you're gonna start feeling like you ever been. I lived in I used to go and stay the summers at my grandparents' house,
Mhm.
and it would suck because sometimes when I was in trouble, she would make me stay inside, but it was a very active neighborhood. So I'd be inside and I'll just be looking out the window and I see kids riding their bikes outside, playing basketball in the street, and I gotta give that sad face that like I wish I could be there. You know what I mean? Because then
Yep.
that's how you start feeling. You start looking at life like that. You're like, dang man, why are they so happy? Well, uh, what are they doing?
Stuff.
You
They're
know
just
what I mean?
doing stuff.
Yeah, like if you have a conversation with them, it's like, oh, how often do you play video games during the week? I don't really play video games. I prefer to go outside. Oh well, let me try that out. Maybe you know what I mean?
See if it works for me.
I play video games 24/7, and for some reason I'm not happy as you seem to be. You know what I mean? So yeah, bro, it's this is what we really wanted to break it down is like we break it down piece by piece because there's a piece that you can take for everyone here that's watching this. There is a different piece to take, and we really just hope that these are conversations that me and Law have on a daily, weekly basis. We have 2-hour phone calls, where we're just chopping it up and we're just talking about what we feel about life, what we feel about ourselves, what we can do better. And yeah, it's we're not looking for oh, it's okay, man. It's all good. Sometimes we're looking for that, but we're looking for more than that. You know what I'm saying? We're looking for
It's iron
motivation. All right,
sharpening iron, really. Because
straight up. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna look
It
at you
doesn't
and I'm be like, "Yo, Zav, you could do this," and you're gonna look at me and you're gonna be like, "Yo, Law, you could do that," and I'm like,
right.
"You right?" You know,
You
it's
know what I'm saying?
men
Yeah,
being
bro.
men,
Yeah,
sharpening,
so
getting better, day by day,
yeah,
piece by piece.
piece by piece, man. So yeah, man,
Well,
that's
on that
what's
note,
up.
he's Zavi, I'm Law. This has been an episode of the very first episode, actually, of Beyond the Pieces, where we focus on self growth, piece by piece. Till
By
next time,
piece. See
peace.
ya.